And here we are once again. More of a, I hate to say just a podcast because it's a visual thing, but an opportunity on a multi-platform, multi-forum experience. It's Cannon's class, and I'm honored to be sitting with someone who is an educator and an author, health and wellness advocate, so many things, artist even. But more importantly, a chef and someone who has put together a great book and some texts that I definitely had the experience to dive into, and am so intrigued and want to just get filled with as much information in the world of eating properly and tapping into a whole new way of life when it comes to health and wellness. Chef Ahki, welcome to Cannon's class.
Thank you for having me.
No doubt. So I've had the privilege to read your book as well as, hear you speak on various topics. And I think it's just not only just to jump in and we like to set framing questions from the text, but more that people just understand like how much of a boss you really are. And really just jumping in, not only in the space of being an influencer and beyond, but more like really just taking the bull by the horns, literally, and leading the charge and having people be a part of this non-hybrid electric food diet, or as we like to call it, live it now.
That's right. Live it.
But just a way of it's a way of life. It's not just something that you can, and you touch on that even in your book. Just even how you grew up just like everybody else, eating everything and processed foods, and then when you got put up on game, you kind of shifted your lifestyle, and then it didn't happen overnight. Right. But letting this kind of be the introduction to so many to say, no, you can do this. You can, and what are the benefits of even having an electric, modern, non-hybrid, wild foods, live it, or diet or way of life. So touch on that just for a second. Just I would love to hear how you got into it, and then like how easy is it for somebody to jump into this way of life?
So I really started very young, which has really put me at a great advantage because, I started when I was about 17, 18 when it wasn't cool
right.
to, get into this particular diet.
Right.
And my family definitely thought I was crazy, and I found out really quickly how much Black folks in particular
right.
really use food as religion.
Yeah.
Okay, and they are greatly
they
offended.
They find that happiness in food.
Yes. So it's like you're taking something away from them, or even to go further, taking away their an avenue that they use to connect with you and with others, or even to give you love.
Right.
So I found out really quickly that me trying to heal myself and prevent disease at a young age caused an uproar for other people, and I had to learn how to navigate that type of thing in a way that wasn't judgy. Right. And that took a while. I mean, people didn't want to be around me for long.
See, yeah, I find that too. I find that very interesting because I've had many different ways of eating, and throughout the years, I've kind of tried it all. One, based off of my own health situations, and then two, even just like feel like, I just want to be happy. You know what I mean? I just want to eat what I want. I don't want someone to. I'm an anti-authoritarian as it comes to life anyway. So I never like to classify myself, nor do I like people telling me what to do. So when it comes to what I eat, even though I'm not a foodie, like I just, like I'm a candy crackhead, but I love sugar, but it's. Going through these different stages, whether it's working out and stuff, I find it's such a judgmental community on both sides, whether you calling yourself vegan or you don't like vegans, or you calling yourself a plant-based eater, or all of these different things, vegetarian. Like it's one that it's so compartmentalized in so many different worlds, whether you're a pescatarian or all that. And then everyone has, like, even if you watch a lot of these documentaries or whatever, like, you get to the conclusion that everything's bad for you. And then ultimately the perfect eaters are just looking there to point their fingers at you saying, you're doing this wrong, or put that pizza down, or put that down.
Yes,
so at least for myself, I've always through my journey, I don't even like telling people, you know what I mean? Like, I don't care what you eat. Like, it's almost like a sexuality thing. It's like, look, I ain't gonna judge you. You don't judge me. What you do in your kitchen is none of my business.
Mind your business.
But I do want people to be educated on the sense of like, yo, especially knowing, you know, our food is our medicine. I mean, we all know that, and it can also be our poison, because the things that we consider food sometimes they're not food. They're chemicals. There's so many things that are made for profit that we put into our bodies, and on our taste buds, we've been programmed that that's supposed to be delicious, but ultimately it's eating away at us. It's tearing our insides up. So. So in that sense, you know, like, I don't want to get too preachy. I don't want to be judgmental, but I just want to understand. So maybe you can help myself and, you know, some of the people viewing and listening to tap in. I mean, like, all right, where do I begin? And it seems like because you started at a young age, you know, you were able to adapt a lot easier, but I'm pretty sure it was a journey as well.
Oh, it was, you know, and this is something that I think is really important to understand, is that when you're first starting off, you're not gonna always go cold turkey, you know. Some people can go cold turkey. I wasn't one of those people. And so because it took me years to make the transition into how I eat today, I'm really, really sensitive about being judgmental to people, right? And so through my journey, although I went through my first few years of not being judgmental, it was more about I wanted to save the people around me. I wanted to prevent disease. I wanted to not have to witness my great-grandmother be on a hospital bed of some diet-related disease.
Right.
You know, so for me, it became less about oh, look at me, I'm eating vegetables. You know, it was more about how do I save my people that are obviously intelligent, beautiful, people who I know could thrive and do and be better if they were void of these diseases or draining the wealth that they've acquired through medications, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So, you know, this conversation to me it's less about the fad that has happened with the plant-based community and all the finger pointing that happens on both sides, like you said, but it's more so about all of the health disparities that we are experiencing as a people, and it is something that you see much more so in the lower income Black and Latino communities.
And I think, I mean, that's an interesting point that you make, and I definitely believe there's I hate to say conspiracy, but there's definitely there's a system in place.
Good marketing.
that directs towards those lower income communities, and we find that, you know, there's fast food restaurants on every corner in the hood.
That's right. That's right.
There's
Popeyes, you got the liquor store,
and all of the cheapest things.
You got the Walmart grocery.
And that's interesting. As a chef, I would love for you to touch on this, because all the cheapest things to eat tend to be bad for you.
Oh yeah.
But if we learn agriculture and we learn how to have our own gardens and own farms, then ultimately we shift the power, and that even goes all the way back to, you know, the movements of like the 60s and the 70s and the Panthers and stuff, where they were wanting to prepare our own food and not wanting to put processed stuff in our body, but to actually make money in our own community and keep that money within our community instead of paying Mr. McDonald's or paying, you know, Mr. Burger King and, you know, and everything else when you go into the grocery store, the microwavable foods and all the stuff that seems to taste good, but ultimately it's destroying us.
Well, first we have to understand, you know, why is this happening? How have we gone from your, you know, great grandmother farming? My grandparents had a farm. You know, I talked about this in my book. I grew up as a kid where I knew what real food tasted like. I knew what a real tomato tastes like, and I know when I get a tomato from Walmart,
it don't taste the same.
GMO tomato, it has no flavor. You get these oversized strawberries, even the ones that may say even organic oftentimes. They're oversized hybridized strawberries that they don't have much flavor. So of course, if you've been drinking soda and eating Taco Bell Doritos, your taste buds have been hijacked. And so you don't even know what food tastes like. It doesn't taste good to you anymore. And the foods that are supposed to be good for you don't taste very good. So on both ends, you know, we're being defeated. So we got to look at this thing. African Americans, Latinos are leading the world in heart disease, diabetes, in autism,
Right.
ADD. You know,
Yeah.
we're seeing all of these issues, right? So, you know, you got to ask yourself, okay, is it worth it for me then to keep eating what my mother taught me? Because you got our generation, you know, I'm 39 years old. I think we're around the same
We're
age.
around the same age, absolutely.
And so, you know, I know that in my grandmother's generation, I'd say about 75-80% of what she ate and fed her children came out of the backyard.
Right.
Well, why? Because first of all, they couldn't afford it. Okay.
But that was just the way to do it.
And it was just a natural way to do it. My grandfather held down the garden. Whatever he harvested, my grandmother would use, and she would can it. She would freeze it. She would, you know, and that's the way that they ate. Whereas in my mother's generation, you know, she wanted to leave the countryside, go get cityfied,
Right.
right? And then she decided, well, the well water ain't gonna cut it now. Now we're gonna drink out of the tap. Right? The convenience of the tap water. I remember just growing up drinking tap water. This was just normal. We wouldn't dream of it now, right?
Right.
But so, you know, you have the working woman now in the 80s who is, you know, working full-time, independent black woman, and, you know, so she's working, dad's working, and I got hot meals, you know, I'd say 4 days a week. We got hot meals, but we were eating a lot of Hamburger Helper,
TV dinners.
right? You know, TV dinners, TV dinners. What the heck is that, right? So you know, we got and lots of Kool-Aid and lots of soda. Right?
Always.
So, right? So you know, we there was no connection. I remember that my mother didn't seem to connect some of the things that me and my brother and sister were experiencing. She wasn't connecting them to the diet. But I know that when I would go on Sunday dinner to grandma's and have the collard greens and have the black-eyed peas, and although there was some roast beef, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I was still getting so much fresh. My grandmother would always make sure that she had something raw, something fresh on the table from her garden.
Right.
So all of those things really, really matter. So we got to kind of look at, you know, historically what we've seen now, you know, the 90s and then on into now. Women are just not cooking at all. You know what I'm saying?
Really?
Like most of the women that come through Fresh Tribe, they're just like, sister, I'm working all day long. I'm exhausted. I don't have time. You know, Uber Eats,
Right.
you know, and whatever's nearby is what my kids are going to eat. And if you're in a low income neighborhood, if you're in a food desert or a food swamp, then you don't have many options. So this is also about education, right?
Okay.
This is also about reconfiguring our idea of what health is and our value system.
Right.
That has to be addressed completely.
And you touched on a book by Layla Africa called Nutricide. So it's kind of pretty much saying genocide, but in the theory of like
Awesome.
in our community, what you were just talking about, that it feels like we're targeted when it comes to and then it's just so, like you said, it's about education. So what are some things that are some misconceptions that we feel like we can kind of just dispel when it comes to specifically in our community? Because I love the fact that you touched on like what our grandmothers and beyond the ancestors before them, they always focused on giving us something from it really to feed the soul. You know what I mean? Whether you want to call it soul food or not, or however you want to dissect it, it was to make you feel better. You know, like whether it's the home remedies or those things. But I feel like there's a lot of stuff that in our community where we're like, well, Big Mama did it, then it must be right. But like, are there some things that we maybe throughout that process maybe need to take out of our diet and start implementing? Because now it is all about education and knowledge, and we know everything now.
Yeah.
We know how to eat. We know what's poisonous. None of this information that we are sharing right now is new information about.
It's not
we
new
know
information.
about processed foods, GMOs. Even I don't know what the hell GMO means, but I know it ain't good for me.
Right.
I know I don't want no gluten and I don't want no GMO. So
Here's the deal. First of all, I think that it's important that we become aware that, first of all, these food companies, major food corporations, advertisement companies, they are spending billions of dollars strictly to target you.
Right.
Okay, I'm talking about. There was a study done at the University of Connecticut in
Right.
2015 where they showed that they not only spent $1 billion targeting blacks and Latinos in their advertisement for junk foods,
Right.
okay, and just sodas,
Flaming hot
okay?
Cheetos.
Straight up. Come on, come on. What
That's
is this-
made for niggas.
What are the things?
Niggas
that
and Mexicans.
Listen. So not only are they doing that, we're talking they're spending like 86% of their budget
Right.
just to target you.
Yeah.
So that you got to understand that they're doing that for many reasons. Why? They're doing that, of course, because of our socioeconomic status, and they know the buying power that we have,
Right.
and where we're spending it. But also, they're doing it because we are the trendsetters.
Yeah.
African Americans are the trendsetters. We are the ones that the rest of the world follows when it comes to trends. So anything we do, everybody else is going to do it. So they know that if they spend their dollar making sure that we eat that bull crap, that of course the rest of the world is going to follow suit. So that's very, very important. And then we have to understand that tradition is killing us. We have to understand that just because your big mama and your grandmama did it, okay, listen, I always tell people the bacon that she ate is not this bacon.
It's
is not
different
the same
bacon?
y'all. This is whatever grandma, whatever pork roast fried chicken she ate is not your chicken. So be clear about that. That chicken's been gone.
Right.
Whatever she was eating, that's dead. You need to understand that this chicken that we're dealing with now, this bacon that we're dealing with today, this fast food generation, and the chemicals, it's not just the food, it's the chemicals that they are now using to mass produce this food is what the real issue is.
Yeah.
So y'all need to let that whole thing go.
And we've seen all of the documentaries where they said even, in, less than 10 years, I believe, that the majority of the meat will be manufactured in laboratories. Like it won't be real animals. So everything that you're eating from the chicken breast, the turkey breast, all that, which is slightly bizarre to me, but to say the least. But, for the people that say they don't want to kill animals, well, if the animal was never born, are you really killing the animal?
Make you feel better about
Yeah, and then I mean on the contrary to, we all excited about Impossible Meat and Beyond Meat.
I'm not.
Tell me why, because I'm saying like to me that seems like that's genetically or that's made in a laboratory too, right? Isn't it?
Listen, that's funny you brought it up because I just did a full video recently on my YouTube for this. Please subscribe.
Yes.
And we talked about, the Beyond Meat and the Impossible craze, and everybody's buying stock in this thing and it's going crazy. Mark my words, you heard it here. I predict, Nick, that this thing is going to have a huge rise in the next, year or two, and that after about 3 years in, we're going to see a nice trickle on down.
Really? What is good? What is the trickle? What's the secret? Something going?
We're so informed right now. You know what I'm saying? We're too informed right now, right? So it's like the trickle that I see is that people are, especially the vegan community, is the ones that are really like, oh my God, we're so happy we can finally eat a burger, right?
Right.
Trust me, I got excited too. Look, TGI Fridays dropped that thing. It was parties all over the nation. Okay, it was like, it was some partying going down. I had the burger. It was delicious. If that's what you're into,
right?
Okay, if you're still craving a burger, and I'm one of those, veggie. I like to say plant-based. I'm one of those that. I'm not going to sit at the table across from you in front like when I see or smell barbecue.
Right.
It doesn't bring up all the memories. I hear Frankie Beverly Mays in the background. You feel me? With
the family reunions with the paper plates.
I'm right there. Like I go potato salad, I can taste it, right? So I'm not going to front.
Right.
Like this is not delicious, which is why I put so much energy into making sure that I use all my soul food skills that my granny and them taught me into making food plant-based and really freaking good. Right. That's
Absolutely.
what I do. So I trust me, I get it. But, we have to start somewhere by cleaning up our act because it is affecting our minds. It's taking people out before their time. Let's look at all the hip hoppers who we've lost. Look at all the legends who we lost over diet-related disease. Gang Starr, Fife.
Yeah.
We really have to look at this thing. So,
and then like you were touching on the trickle of the Impossible and Beyond Meat. And someone I don't like to classify my eating habits. But I try to eat clean. Yes. But there's still something about it. I'm like, something seems, I don't know. Like because I know one thing I don't want is I don't want laboratory made meat at all. Like when I hear that they're growing chicken parts and turkey parts, that just sounds like a science fiction movie. But then when I hear about the Beyond Meat and the Impossible Meat, I'm like, isn't that kind of the same thing? And then a lot of it, it's just because it sounds like because it's made from soy, and even with this, I hear some of it has GMO, some of it's not. And then can you clear that up for me? I mean, I know you're a chef, you're not necessarily like a scientist, but what is GMO and why can't I have it?
Well, here's the thing. I put up a meme. This was about maybe 6 years ago when I was. My platform was really super gangster at this time. Okay, I've lightened up. I said I might go back, but I posted a meme, and the meme was of a photo of the swim team, like class of 1955 Spelman.
Okay,
women, and then like right underneath, I put the class of like 2009. Right, and the vast difference that you see looking into the faces and the figures of these women, such a vast difference of you saw this just this class, beauty, and pride. You saw that the big girl was a size 8 at that time. Okay, 8, 10, that was a big girl. Right. And then you look at the class of 2009, and what I posted was that this is the GMO generation. Okay, this is the genetically modified organism. This is what we look like. Right. And that once a genetically modified organism takes root, what does that look like 20 years later, 50 years later? And I said, you are what you eat, and we are looking like a bunch of chicken heads, cows, and pigs.
Did you just call the Spelman swim team chicken heads?
No, I did not. But
we just clear that up. The GMO generation.
You can see that we are altering ourselves. You are literally altering your DNA the same way that vegetables now are being altered, and now you're just talked about meats. Being altered down into their DNA.
Wow.
So are we now synthetic beings?
I mean, if we put it into our body, absolutely. And like you said, like if it's truly about the chemicals that we're putting into our body, and it seems like a lot of it, even from the preservatives to even the idea of just making things cheaper. Chemicals, from the fluoride in our water to, even and
we're inundated with this mess.
Yeah, to the stuff that's just even in the air. So can you avoid something that science is pretty much saying? Like, again, it goes back to even like it's everywhere.
Yeah, can we really avoid this?
Yeah.
The answer, the short of the long of that is that now on one hand, you would think that if it is true, and it is, we just discussed that it is proven that blacks and Latinos are being targeted in this junk food craze, you would think that because of the health disparities that already exist in our communities, that there should be some sort of legal action that we could take, right. To get them to change course, okay? But and people, people haven't tried much, but you would think you could try. But then, of course, because of the First Amendment, there's freedom of speech, which also means freedom of commercial speech, okay? So then that doesn't quite work. So then, second, you would say, well, maybe, there are people, I know lots of people who are, signing petitions and fighting to get the governmental nutritional standard, raised, to raise the bar of what is the nutritional standard, starting in the school system, right? And we've seen some changes. There's a couple of schools, Kipway schools and different schools now that my son goes to a school where there's an option. He has an option. He can have a meat or a vegan-friendly meal provided for him. Awesome. So there are some schools that are doing this, but on a local, federal level, like how can we raise the bar there? Yes, there are people fighting for it. Yes, we can continue to fight that fight. But thirdly, which is my personal stance, is that it's nobody's damn responsibility to feed
Feed
you
you,
properly.
right.
It's nobody's responsibility necessarily to teach you how to feed yourself. Something so simple.
Except for your mama.
Right.
That's her
Yeah,
responsibility.
yes, except for your family.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Your family and your community.
Your lineage.
Right. Your lineage, your community. Right. And then so at the end of the day, my slogan is fight the power, grow something.
Yeah.
Right. So we have to go back to that. We have to go back to supporting our Black farmers. There are plenty of them here in my local area in Atlanta. I visit all of them.
Right.
I make great friends with my local farmers. And chefs need to get back to that, honestly.
Right.
I think we've kind of fallen off of that. When I work with my clients, I'm offering you organic foods where I know what they're being sprayed with. I know the process of what's going on with the fertilization, with the soil. I know that process because I have a relationship with my farmer.
Right.
So knowing your grower and supporting them is very important. As a matter of fact, if you are dealing with food assistance, right? We're talking about low-income families. You can actually go to your local farm with your EBT, and they will actually double your produce.
Wow. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, they will double it.
So it's better off to go to a farm with your EBT than to the grocery store.
Yeah, so that just, debunks the cost myth
Right.
that, it's just too expensive,
Right.
So then, and then again, you can grow so much food in just a small plot of land, just a box outside of your home even,
Right.
And then if you're not going to do it, because we're all working and we're all so busy,
Right.
that we work ourselves to death and we get sick and then right? So this model is not
The cycle
working.
is...
This cycle is horrible. The
Yeah.
model's not working.
Right.
And so, again, supporting your local farmer is very important. Supporting your local co-ops is important. Becoming a member of your co-op is very important. If you have, mom and pop co-ops or whatever co-ops in your area. I know there's places like Simply Wholesome in LA. I know here we have Seven Onda.
Right.
Several small stores that you can start to work with and work with the people that love to do it and are already doing it, even if you're not a farmer yourself. And then start there and get back in the kitchen with your children. Get back. My son loves making smoothies. He loves cooking with me. He thinks he's a chef. I bought him a little mini kitchen. That's important that, you let your daughters and your sons see the lifestyle. That means not only am I your parent, but I'm providing nourishment for you in the form of something that you put into your mouth. That's very, very important. So, if we want to become the hashtag woke generation, you cannot get away from the conversation of health and wellness, because we're talking about wellness of the mind, having a strong mind so that we can build strong families, so that we can build strong communities. If you're a king and a queen, don't eat like a peasant.
That's a word right there. If you're a king and a queen, don't eat like a peasant. So let's talk that for a minute. Let's food for thought. Get a plate. All right. So being a chef, I mean, you've cooked for some prominent people, and specifically Dr. Sebi was someone you had the opportunity to cook for, and many other celebrities and dignitaries and all of that. But it's specifically always been, as your book puts it, non-hybrid and electric foods. What is that?
Yeah. So, maybe 20 years ago when I found out about Sebi, I was really fascinated. I'd never heard about alkaline foods. I was becoming vegetarian, but I really didn't know the difference between what he was suggesting as a part of his program and his food list. I did not understand what non-hybrid was. And what's important to state and note here is that there are hybrids in nature. There are hybrids in nature, right? So there's natural hybrids that grow, which just means that
two things came together.
Right?
Right.
So in nature, if you are from the same phylum or family, then your male-female plant comes together, makes a new plant, all is well, right? But when we talk about hybrids in this book, we're talking about what really would be considered a genetically modified food.
That GMO stuff again.
Frankenscience is coming in now, and we have the hands of man are getting involved with the process.
Right.
There, this is not where nature,
But it's things that we think are nature, things that we think are good for you,
It
like
is.
carrots.
like the carrot.
A carrot is a hybrid food.
It is a
and
hybrid.
which makes it bad for you?
Well, yes, because it is unnatural. Because it's not a natural hybrid, it doesn't. God.
Because nature didn't make it. You're
don't
not supposed to take it.
So here's the deal: like, would I eat a genetically modified or a hybrid carrot before I would eat that damn Impossible Burger? Yes. Okay. So let's just be clear about
So
that.
on the
But it is a
on the
hybrid
scale,
made
on
by
the
a
pyramid,
scientist
yeah.
in a lab.
Right.
Yes, it is, and many foods. You be shocked. The cavender, the corn.
Yeah.
The cavender of banana.
Corn, cauliflower.
Yes, the bananas that
the
we
bananas,
y'all
because the bananas are originally supposed to have seeds and they're a lot smaller.
Yes.
These
Have you had
bananas,
one?
the
Of the baby
I
banana?
think I have. I think because I've
seeds?
traveled the world, so I've
Yes,
eaten the
delicious.
like when you go to different countries, the bananas are probably like this
Sweet.
small. They're sweet. They ripe really quickly.
Ripe quickly.
The bananas that we have, you can buy them and they stay in the grocery store for like 2 weeks and
Exactly.
they're not even yellow yet.
Exactly.
Like, so-
Haven't changed at all.
So, but then so you gotta make this. So, is it like a laboratory where people are like making carrots, or is it like I still don't understand?
Well, the truth is yes.
Really?
Yeah, there are many food laboratories where scientists are working hard every day finding new
And they
ways.
send the seeds to that place to grow it to them and make you think because it came out of the ground, but
Yes.
somebody
Yes, they are
developed that
splicing-
seed.
Yes, for these things are inherently modified. They're
Wow.
modified from inception.
Wow.
So that is happening. And like I stated in the book, this isn't something that I believe necessarily started out as like some sinister plot
Right.
against humanity.
They were just trying to make
per
more.
se. Yeah, they're trying to feed us all because we're not governing our own health. So
Right.
when you give up control in that way,
Right.
they're going to give you what you need, supply and demand. You don't want to farm? Great, we got you.
It's fast food.
We'll figure out a sci-fi way to feed all y'all.
Right.
Good luck.
And that's when you get to that space of them, making meat in laboratories and and even these different fruits and vegetables. So on the contrary, tell us some things that are electric. Tell us some things that are carbon-based food that we can put in our carbon-based body.
Yeah. So, brothers and sisters, one of the most important things that I urge that you start to incorporate into your diet first are going to be fruits.
Right.
We don't really eat fruit like that.
I love fruit.
You love fruit?
I love fruit.
Word, I love fruit. And we really aren't eating enough fruits. Fruits, first of all, should be your first foods every day.
Now, the majority of the
last foods every day.
fruits non-hybrid?
Yeah. Well,
Other than bananas, we see bananas are...
Well, there are so many non-hybrid fruits actually. Things like
Mango.
mango, my favorite. We love our mangoes. I eat a lot of mangoes. I eat all the berries. I eat the pears.
Antioxidants.
I'm peaches because I'm in Georgia and I love
Yeah.
peaches.
So all of that's good to go.
All those things are wonderful. We need more food. Remember,
And
your
those are
body-
good breakfast foods, right? They say you start your day off with fruit.
Starting in your day off with fruit. So you got to remember your body's 80% water.
Yeah.
You need to eat things that have that same chemical affinity with your body. So you want to also eat things that are also water-based.
Right.
Water-based, which is what keeps you youthful, keeps you young, keeps you vibrant, right? So also we need to upgrade our greens. We need to upgrade our greens. I ain't talking about just some spinach,
All right.
little kale,
Collards.
like collard green. I love collard greens. You need to prepare them a certain way. You need to know how to properly prepare these foods.
No
also,
fat back
right?
in with the...
Nah, that's exactly. No.
Don't take the
Right.
fat back from the
Nah,
collard.
come on now. Listen, you can actually, you can use smoked paprika. You can use, to make them smoky. I'm giving away my secrets. Smoked black salt is what I use.
Right.
I got to use smoked salt. So there are many ways to
Right.
really hook some greens. And my greens are slam. My greens is better than my granny's greens.
Oh, word?
You
Uh-oh.
didn't hear me say that, Granny.
That's big
I love
talk.
your granny, but your greens are trash. No.
She put pork in them.
But yeah, she'll make them vegan for me now.
Right.
All these years, it's so beautiful to see my grandmother at 85 now transition.
Wow.
To see my mother at 60 something transition. So it's been incredible because I've been preaching this for over 20 something years, like I said, and they're just now like, you know what? She's saying something.
Right.
So I've been incorporating dandelions
You said about. I'm trying. I'm
Dandelion is
curious
gangster.
about the.
Have you ever seen a dandelion grow
I haven't.
wild? Like up through the concrete. You've seen it, but you didn't
You didn't realize what
recognize
was going
that
on.
It was a dandelion. That's
Right.
how gangster dandelions grow up through concrete. Imagine how strong a plant would have to be to
Wow.
grow up through concrete.
That's pretty
right?
damn strong.
So it's kind of amazing, and it grows wild. It doesn't need to be behind the farmer's fence. It doesn't need you to grow. It's gonna grow.
Okay.
Wild, right? So now we're looking at hallelujah.
How do you?
Poke salad.
But like, how do y'all just go grab a dandelion off the concrete and bite into it? Like, what am I supposed?
No.
How is it prepared, chef?
No, look, I had some dandelion today. Oh, it was good. I actually mixed dandelion with chard greens, which is like my third favorite green to eat. I would say first for me would be callaloo.
Oh,
I
okay.
love callaloo.
From
I
the
love
island.
Caribbean. Oh, callaloo is everything.
All right.
And then on into my chard and my dandelion. But I cook them and mix them together, and they're bitter to the taste if you eat them raw. Very bitter.
Right.
Which bitter is everything. Bitter kills cravings for sweet things. So and starch. So eat bitter things. That's why Jamaicans take bitters.
Right.
Because it's really cleansing in that way. It kills candida.
Right.
So and it cleans the kidneys, the liver, the blood.
The bitters.
Okay, right. So all y'all like to drink, get your drink on, you need to drink some dandelion.
Right.
Right. So and I cook it and I juice it. I actually juice a gallon of dandelion juice every week.
What's dandelion juice taste
And I
like?
get my dandelion for like $3 for a bushel. You can get it from any store now.
Is
any
it
store
bitter?
now.
Is it sweet? Is it?
It is bitter, but what I do is I juice it with cucumbers or romaine lettuce.
Okay.
You're right. To water it down, I hit it with some pears or apple and lime.
Okay.
A little ginger.
All
And
right.
then it's like, what's up?
That
It's
sounds
amazing.
delicious.
It's in this book.
Is I was
Called
gonna say, is it
it's
in
called
here?
The Big Bang.
I did see the Big Bang.
Yeah, it's in the book.
You put some
so-
Ciroc in there and call it the Diddy Bang.
Yeah, so you're crazy. But so yes, greens, fruits, right? And then we got to upgrade our grains and carbohydrates. This is huge.
Okay.
Because we love the carbs.
Yeah,
and
I mean, but
sweets.
everyone loves carbs. I mean, and that's another thing. Like carbohydrates is in everything.
Yes. Well, we
Except
gotta
water.
upgrade 'em. We gotta upgrade them, right?
Right.
I ain't saying you can't have it.
Right.
But you gotta upgrade it, right? So
The right kind of carbs.
Yes, and I'm telling you, people don't know that most of these super grains exist, but they're phenomenal. If you like grits, eat amaranth. Eat amaranth. Amaranth comes from the callaloo, actually. So it's a seed, and it cooks up, and it's beautiful like grits or like cream of wheat, if you like that. Fonio, super food out of Africa. Amazing, full of iron, phosphorus, calcium.
Now,
protein.
all of this stuff ain't at the
Amazing.
7-Eleven. Like, how do, where do we find all of these
I go to earthsgoodness.com.
African foods? And, like the regular cat that's in the projects, like, man, I don't know how to find that stuff. That's the
Yeah.
process is
Education.
really.
Education is important, which is why I go so hard, Nick, doing what I do, because
Right.
I know that most people don't know about this food. Even people who are woke and eating well don't even know where to get some of this food, right?
Right.
So again, I have a membership group where people come.
I was about to say we need some Chef Ahki stores.
I got the freshtribe.com. I got my tribe. Delicious
Okay.
Indigenous got a tribe.
All right.
So our tribe is the freshtribe.com. We keep each other motivated, share our stories, share our food, share recipes on where to find this food, first of all. So a lot of stuff, honestly, like I'll straight up, my clients order maybe 70% of what they eat comes from the internet.
Wow.
That's just the truth. They order it online.
But isn't that even that's kind of weird?
It's not. Well, how are we shopping? It's
Yeah.
just convenience, right? So if you think
But it's
about
still fresh when it shows up to the crib?
everything except for produce.
Okay.
Right, so your dried grains, you can absolutely get your amaranth, your fonio, your quinoa, your nuts, your
Right.
seeds, your flours.
Right.
Your buckwheat, your gluten-free flours and
Right.
alkaline flour. All that stuff can be ordered online. Your snacks, even all that can be ordered. Dehydrated thing online, and then go to the market, go to the farmers to get your produce.
Right. All right, that makes
Right.
sense. Or your own garden, as you
Yes.
put it,
Or
or
hire me.
tap into the farm. Yeah, see that. Now, obviously, in the book, you throw down in here. I mean, you guys
Hey.
definitely gotta cop this because this is stuff, and I love the way how you put it into everyday terms. It's not a hard read, and even like your
Thank
direction
you.
is
I
like
tried.
you talk normal. You're not.
Like this.
Yeah. So and I think in speaking to our community, we have to speak in real terms. You know what I mean? And be reality. I mean, live in reality
Yes.
and be realistic when approaching this lifestyle.
Exactly.
But I want to dig a little deeper for a second and tap more into the wellness side of what you do. And being an advocate in this space, mental health. We often talk about this, but a lot of times they say our mental health starts in what we put into our bodies, and with our meals, and specifically in children. And we're so quick to diagnose and classify our children, and whether it's having ADHD, which
right.
people used to try to say I had when I was a kid, or even giving other kids learning disabilities or not being able to focus, when really it could be just they're hungry, or they're
Malnutrition.
malnutrition, or putting the wrong things into their body, too much refined sugar, too much stuff that
Yes.
we're packing in our children's lunches.
Absolutely.
And then it prohibits the community from operating on a full tank, or even learning or being able to focus
Absolutely.
in a meal. And going back to, is breakfast important? Is lunch important? If you had to break it down in here, a young person, even an adult, what are the things that they should, other than water, because we all know that's the true saving grace and the true medicine, but what are the things to be extra productive, to give energy? What would you say? What would you recommend, or what would you prepare? What do you prepare for yourself?
So at home, I keep it very simple. And I know people see me making super fancy things for clients and stuff, but I actually at home keep it really simple. I'm very busy, and I don't got time to be messing around in the kitchen. So I keep it simple. There's always something soaking in my home.
Okay.
Okay. So when I go home tonight, I'm going to grab a bowl and grab some black rice, some wild rice, and throw it in a bowl of water. Lights
Right.
out, I'm asleep.
Wow.
That's my normal lifestyle. It's like, it's like, you go walk the dog, It's like,
You
you
eat
take
black
the-
rice before you go to bed, because a lot of people say you shouldn't have.
Yes.
You shouldn't eat before you go to bed.
Yeah, I just soak it.
Oh.
I soak it.
Okay.
And so then tomorrow.
Oh, so you don't eat it at night?
No.
No. Okay.
No, again, lifestyle.
Right.
I soak things overnight constantly.
And what does that do?
So it's important when you eat this way, you're eating a lot of fresh grains and beans and things like that. So you have to soak it so that it cooks really quickly, and you're also getting rid of a lot of all the excessive sulfur that's actually hidden in the food, which is going to cause gas and all kind of other issues like digestive problems. So soaking it is almost like a part of pre-cooking it and rehydrating it.
Interesting.
Right? So it cooks faster, it digests better, all around great. So the lifestyle for me is to have things soaking
In
always.
alkaline water or just regular water?
No, in spring water.
Spring water?
And so then I can cook it really quickly. And before my son has to be at school at 9 a.m., if I'm at home, I'm definitely soaking. I've got something pre-soaked.
Okay.
So in 10 minutes, his meal can be done for me because it's already halfway ready. I'm going to steam it while I get him ready, steam up some veggies real quick, toss it up, and I'm done. So it's, that's a daily practice for me.
Right.
But also with children and with adults who are transitioning, I think it's important that we have to make foods that we're already familiar with, but just choose cleaner ingredients.
Okay.
So in my book, I made a 3-layered lasagna.
Right.
I made a stuffed burrito. Really popular dishes because we're all used to those flavors.
Right.
So I'm using all the same flavors. I'm using the chipotle. I'm using poblano pepper. I'm using the same flavors, but I'm using walnut meat instead that I've now made with sun-dried tomatoes. It's phenomenal.
Walnut meat? There's meat that's made up.
God, it's
And it tastes like meat?
Yes.
Walnut meat.
Yes.
All right.
You have to try it. It's phenomenal.
All right.
And so you can make things. I make nacho salad with my walnut meat.
Really?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna
You can
need
make
that.
Yeah. You can make cheese. You can make all these awesome things from cleaner ingredients. So with new clients, I just try to make foods that they're already familiar with, and just ease it in by adding just electric ingredients to those meals.
And you've seen a change in these people's lifestyles, the people that you work with?
God, it's tremendous.
Really?
Tremendous. I mean, healing.
Wow.
more energy, more focus, better digestion.
And that's all the things that we say that can battle the mental health or even the stigmas that put on us. It's really, we got to put the right things into our bodies.
Important. Look, I see children every day. If I'm up early enough and I see the kids going to school, say I pull over and get gas, I can't tell you how many times I've seen kids grabbing, what are those things called, Takis?
Yeah.
Grabbing the Takis,
the Takis and the hot Cheetos.
Yeah, they would grab the hot Cheetos. And I'm like, is this your breakfast, kid? Like,
Yeah.
what is the potatoes in a soda?
And a Mountain Dew.
Yeah, like, this is how you
That used to
start
be
your
my
day.
breakfast every morning.
Then you're going to be on medication.
Yeah.
You're gonna be, and the average kid in America right now is on like 10 drugs before they even leave high school.
Wow.
So it's like, do you want to take responsibility and get your value system together, or do you want to let someone else raise your child and who won't even be your child anymore? They're going to be a zombie.
Right. Yeah. Now that's facts. And then, so even knowing that it's about what we put in our body and when we put it into our body, I've heard that like Malcolm X only ate once a day and was very disciplined. And, a lot of our brothers and sisters practice Ramadan and
So they're practicing right now.
right, as we speak. And there's often even, people fasting, whatever your spiritual belief is, fasting is in many different philosophies and ways of life. Is it really those myths of you're supposed to have 3 to 5 meals a day? Is that real? I even heard someone say something that was really powerful. It's like people are eating 3 meals a day but still starving themselves because they're not putting the nutrients into their body and the proper minerals into their body. So how important? If you're just, because why do we eat? Why do we eat so much when ultimately we're not putting the nutrients into our body that we're supposed to? We're just eating for leisure or for pleasure opposed to actually, the fuel that the food is ultimately supposed to be. And so why do we do that? And then how do we shift that into knowing, all right, this is something that's actually going to build and make me better opposed to like, I'm just doing this because it tastes good.
Great question. I always tell people you are not starving. You are malnourished.
Right.
Okay. You are not overweight. You are dehydrated.
Right.
Okay. And oftentimes you're not sick, you're just sleepy.
Right. You're fatigued.
And I love how my sister Badu recently talked about her diet and lifestyle, and it went semi-viral. And she was talking about the 4 doctors. Okay. She was talking about, I don't remember all the ones, but I think she said like Dr. Sun, Dr. Exercise, Dr. Sleep, and then nutrition, right? And, very simple principles to live by.
Right.
Okay. And so, we are what our habits are, right? Our principles, our practices.
Right.
So, this is something where you can edit, because I need to hear that question one more time.
Oh, yeah. No. You are good. Don't even worry.
I had the perfect answer for this. I kind of forgot what you said.
No. I was saying like just the idea of actually having like, why do we eat like so?
Oh, so much.
Yeah, and
3
then
times
like,
a day,
is that really a thing? And then because we're not putting
Got it.
the actual nutrients into our body.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So, the idea that we should be eating 3 times a day, it's not necessary.
Right.
Right. But what it's not necessary, certainly in the way in which we're doing it. So let me just state that, unless you are breastfeeding or something, okay?
Right.
And you need to be,
I'll never do that. Yeah. So I don't have to worry about that.
Right. Like breastfeeding women, yes, you need to be eating a lot, right?
Right.
But other than that, having the discipline to eat once a day, I think is wonderful, because you got to remember, your intestinal tract is like 35 feet. Okay, it's like 12 times the length of your body.
Right.
Is your intestinal tract, right?
Right.
So you got to think your body's 98 degrees. Okay.
Right.
And you've got especially if it's not fresh food, chemical-free food, it's just this putrefaction.
Move
just
all of that.
Yeah, it's rotten. It's just sitting in your body rotten. Ew.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, you got to think about that, and that you don't need all these meals that are, backing up in your body, which, I used to be a colon therapist, by the way.
Really?
But,
Oh, yeah,
I
you do. You
started off
talk
as a
about
colon
that. Yeah.
therapist.
From colon therapist to chef.
I know. I try not to mention it because people are like, hold on.
Yeah.
But, it's
Like, that's a shitty
but-
job.
I loved it. I'm a weirdo like that. But I loved every bit of it. One of a sister that I've been looking, one of my great mentors is Queen Afua, and she also was a colon hygienist. And I thought it was so wonderful because I knew that for me, I had been eating bologna sandwiches my whole life. So
Right.
if I was going to move into health and wellness, I need to get cleaned out.
Yeah, so you got to get all
I was
of that
young
out.
and I couldn't afford it.
Right.
So I said, let me go and offer myself
Wow.
to learn this practice and intern
Right.
for an amazing sister, Venus El Fatin. Love her dearly. Also a mentor of mine. But in cleaning out your body, you learn, oh my God, I don't need all this food, undigested food, just sitting in my body all this time. And particularly if you're eating junk, it's not digesting. You
Right.
gotta remember, that's why I stress raw food so much. And I'm not a raw foodist by any means.
Right.
But I stress it because we just aren't getting enough of fresh food because
Right.
the fiber, you gotta remember, raw food acts like a broom, like brushing out your insides, right? Keeping everything together. And then with that proper hydration, again, the water being intact in your food, right? You'll be able to have just a much more peaceful defecation. Look, if you backed up, you sick.
Yeah.
That's if you're constipated, you're not well. So
Wow.
I hear people say, oh, I went to my doctor, they said I'm healthy, I got all my tests and, I'm good.
Right.
You hear people say, and I'm looking at you.
Right.
I can tell you backed up. You are not going to the restroom. I can see you.
Right.
Right. And so, that's the first sign of an issue is
Right.
when you're having bowel issues, right? You need to be going regularly. So, that the idea that you need to eat all this food every day, it's really a myth. And if you were eating the proper foods, you would feel nourished and you would not feel the need to eat so much.
Right. So that makes a lot of sense. I mean, we joke and say, whether it's about the colonics or whatever that world, but
Get a colonic.
really though, see, like I've never done it, and then even like studying more, of Sabi's teaching.
There's some controversy here.
Yeah, it's like it's not really something that, especially as men, we don't really want nothing going up there. But if it's like if you can't look into our ancestry or even in the people who've come before us, they didn't necessarily do colonics.
True.
So like now that we're starting to push something up there to clean things out, you're also cleaning out the natural things
Yes.
that are there purposely to combat what's going on in your body. So
I agree.
So
I agree with that.
all right.
In certain cases.
That's just that's my reason for not going and getting water shot up my butt.
Well, coming from a woman who used to shoot water into behinds, what I will say is that, when you have gotten yourself into a situation where your health has declined so much, you'll do anything to address
get it back, yeah.
Okay, and this is a situation where I personally don't have to get colonics because I've spent 20 years eating
Right.
a lot of great food and doing lots of cleanses, and I'm continuously cleansing.
Right.
I always say the ABCs of health is always be cleansing.
Okay.
So the thing is, if you are dealing with any type of gastrointestinal issues, you have, excessive weight, IBS and all that, then I would say yes. I would say that you have let yourself go so far that now we need to put water into you to start to break up all
everything
that
that's up in
waste,
there.
because over time, this waste is like tire rubber. Over
Wow.
time, you can't just say, "Oh, I take a bamboo every day. I'm good." No, you don't understand what's still backed up in you
And the lining.
from years in
Yeah.
the lining of your intestinal tract. And what happens is once that waste, and if you're eating standard American diet, this is going on with you.
All right.
That if once that waste hardens in the body, because the bowel's job is the intestinal job is to take the water out of the matter.
Right.
So over time it dries out and it starts to putrefy to the point to where it actually starts to eat away at the mucosal lining of your intestinal tract. And now the poison is in your bloodstream. So now we've got auto intoxication. And now everything that's going wrong is coming from your bowel. But you don't really realize it because all you know is you can't see as well.
Right.
You are having an issue with your hearing.
Right.
Maybe you got headaches. You got, right?
Right.
But you don't know this whole time. It's just you need to you're full of shit.
Yeah, I was gonna say, layman's terms, you got shit in your blood.
Full of shit.
And that's so. It seems so simple. Just put the proper things into your body, take care of yourself. But going back to what you were saying before, in the book, Nutricide, and the idea of like we've been programmed that what's quicker, what's cheaper. Those are the things. Like I always tell people, like if we were told that, hey, eat this poison, everybody would be like, nah, I would never do that. But propaganda and the media and advertisers have shown us they make us think poison tastes delicious. So, but here, feed this poison to your children, but we do that each and every day, and we're giving them plastic to eat. We're giving them chemicals to eat, and even it's mind blowing when we think like how controlled we are by all of this. And like I said, it's only a generation or two old, because before, my great grandmother, she's about to be 100 this year.
Oh, wow.
And still has the garden in North Carolina, and still come in and cook up, still eat chitlins, you know what I mean? But still, but still, it's like her process is at least, of her own. She's not, she hasn't been programmed in that sense to where, at least she's not gonna run to McDonald's and grab something. She's not gonna run, or just microwave something. She's gonna prepare it. But so, saying all that, knowing that you're a chef, where does the average person who's not a chef, like, what is their process other than hiring you? Like, what is that process of understanding specifically? I'm careful on how I put it. Specifically, a melanated person who's not necessarily, who doesn't know what their original diet is. And that's kind of even tapping into, what Sabi talked about with the, African biomineral process, or even, or I think I would love to hear more about the delicious indigenous world, because it feels like there's certain things as Black people that we should be eating that, other people can't eat. Other people, like, even always hear like all Black people are lactose intolerant. I think everybody truly is lactose intolerant, but it definitely affects, a melanated person a lot more than it affects people who probably just throughout the years and throughout their heritage have been, eating and drinking goat's milk and cow's milk. So, so it's just, how do we educate them, and what do we look for in those spaces to know what Black people are supposed to be eating?
So I think it's important to point out that, again, value system. I have some clients, very, very wealthy clients, who I've gone into their homes, and there's, Louis, Gucci, Fendi, Prada, everything is the nicest of everything you could have.
Right.
But you go into their
kitchens,
refrigerator,
and
their fridges,
and Kool-Aid.
Frozen pizzas and ramen noodles and cornflakes. It's like, where am I? And that has to change. We have got to value ourselves in a different way, not just aesthetically, but internally. Right. And I tell people all the time, I have goals. I have things I'm trying to do. I got places to be. I don't have time to get sick. I don't have time to feel horrible. I don't have time to be out here looking sloppy. I don't have time for that. So, this is a part of kind of changing our values, and that food being loving or a nourishing act to our children and our families needs to look like something that is healthy.
Right.
Okay. So now, the education part of that is that you got to remember, during the onslaught of colonialization, at least here in the States, we were brought over here and left to eat whatever scraps they could find for us to eat outside of the feasting that they were doing. So you got to remember, what was our diet before we got here?
Right.
You know, I always tell people, you know, you hear about us eating watermelons, you hear about us eating collard greens. I'm sure that these were just things that they were doing just to survive, and just, you know, things that were reminiscent of the things that they ate before they got here, because they knew that what they were eating was slop.
Right.
So, you know, you have to think about how colonialization has affected the way that we eat. And if we are eating, African Americans and Latinos, that if we are eating a diet that is all flesh, all starch, all sugar, combined with chemicals and grease,
Right.
you know, this is really totally the opposite of everything that we used to eat. Now, this doesn't mean that we never ate meat. So I want to just say that now. And I know a lot of people are like, well, we weren't always vegan and this, and that.
Right.
Or raw food. It's certainly not this new age boutique raw food is
Right.
or vegan. But we certainly ate a plant-based diet, although there were some meats there. And you know this because when you look at just the process of hunting animals
Right.
to feed your family,
Right.
okay, it's such a grand process that you would not want to put yourself through all of that. The dangers
Right.
of what that means, the process of killing and cleaning an animal and getting it prepared to feed your family. You would much rather eat the roots and the vegetables
Right.
and the fruits and the berries, right, that are more accessible to you. To me, it's simple common sense.
Right.
But I just say that to say that if we look at the decline also of our health since eating this way, it's a drastic difference. So if you want to understand, well, how is it that how did we eat, and what is the best way for me to eat, and how to return to that? Go to the Caribbean for a week.
Yeah.
Okay, go and see how great you feel in eating maybe a little fresh fish, lots of coconut, lots of mango, lots of fruit, lots of fresh things. You start to feel and look different over time. And I hear this constantly, when I'm in the Caribbean, or my Caribbean brothers and sisters, when I go back home, everything is right. Like, I'm just feeling good. I'm eating good. I'm having bowel movements. I hear this all the time. They're eating the fresh sea moss. They're enjoying sour sop. All these things are really naturally cured. They're natural cures.
Right.
So, you know, you got to just kind of reach back a little bit and have a look at what our ancestors were doing with food, just to understand that. And then again, you know, taking some of those concepts and incorporating them now into your kitchen. That's why I use the term delicious indigenous,
Right.
or the indigenous kitchen. What does the indigenous kitchen look like? We didn't refrigerate all of our foods the way that we did. My grandmother told me when she was growing up, she didn't have a deep freezer.
Right.
So they didn't even have the option to eat meat the way that
Talk
we do
about
now,
that in
because
your
you
book.
couldn't even freeze it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, it's like, well, if they couldn't freeze it, you know, everything had to be fresh. Well, then that means you're going out to kill a chicken and plucking and going through that process. Who wants to deal with that? So eating, you know, she grew up eating meat,
Right.
but she ate meat so rare that, you know, going to the butcher, that was for rich folks.
Right.
Right, so you got to remember that was never our lifestyle to eat meat, dairy, and starch 3-4 times a day. That was never our lifestyle.
Wow, that's powerful. I didn't even really think about it like that. And even go all the way back, they say, well, hey, Adam and Eve was vegans. So, I would like just quickly, you know, as we conclude, but I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the idea of the infrastructure and the empire and what you've built, and being, you know, a strong Black woman and being an inspiration and being able to inspire so many through your teachings, through your food, through your books, through your advocacy. Where does that come from? I mean, to be a strong woman in this day and age, and to be able to set out and say, I'm going to do this on my own. I mean, you tap into a little bit in your book about your journey from Oklahoma and to Texas, and then even, you know, as we sit here in Atlanta today, and, you know, you're world renowned, and I see you on television, online, all that stuff. that process? Was it something that you always knew, I'm gonna set out and build this? And where does, for the young lady that's watching this, and you see so many who want to start YouTube channels or want to speak about their dietary worlds, or health and wellness, fitness, all this stuff, but it seems like it's such a fad now. And then too, for someone like yourself who's actually a mogul, who's someone who does many things, what is that blueprint, and how can one follow it?
It's a great question. I would say, I come from a lineage of really phenomenal women. I always tell people when I give lectures, whatever you see about me or within me that inspires you, trust. You're seeing a legion of amazing women behind me, or on the side of me, with me. I went from, my grandmother, my mother, my aunts, my sister, all of these women being very independent, very strong. My grandmother was a nurse. And I always felt empowered to be a woman. But a lot of that also came from the men in my life who made me feel safe and protected in that process. So my father being a really phenomenal man, being strong, making me always feel safe and covered and protected. My homeboys, my whole crew. I always had uncles and homies that are still my dudes from middle school to this day, that are still my great friends.
That's awesome.
That really inspired me, and there were many brothers who poured into me to keep me motivated on this path. So my confidence to do this work and to grow this brand, first and foremost comes from them. And then in my journey in leaving Oklahoma, I did not set out to do this kind of work. I was really just working on me, I knew that I had had fainting spells as a young woman. I was fainting all the time. Having urinary tract infections from drinking all that damn Pepsi.
Wow.
My mother loved Pepsi growing up, and I barely had water. So I just knew that the people around me were becoming sick as I was becoming older, and I didn't want to have to deal with that. So I was just healing myself, and in healing myself, I started to attract people who were interested in expanding what I was already doing. And so I attracted some phenomenal people on this journey, who continued to pour into me in this process. And when I started 8-9 years ago, social media hadn't taken off in this way, but it was just starting to. So I really, jumped on that
you were
curve.
Early in.
Yeah, I was early in, and I really jumped in. And I knew that out of everything that I had studied from, Eris Latham, the Queen Afua, Dr. Jewel Pookrum, Layla Africa, Ashra Kwesi, that I knew that through all those studies of me studying all of these leaders to heal myself, I was clear that I had now come to a point where it was time to share.
Right.
It was time to share, and that I saw young women now coming up who wanted to understand my lifestyle, and that what I had was valuable. And so, and even elders around me who understood, business, branding, marketing, all these things, just really being like, you're working with something, we want to pour into you.
Right.
So I'm really grateful for that, and I'm still learning every day. So to the young woman who's watching, I would say, you have to stay open and stay humble in that you're going to hit a learning curve like every other week. There's some new program, there's some new this and that.
Right.
I'm constantly being humbled, and it's annoying because you're like, oh, God, I got to figure this out, right? But I'm constantly, you need to be the first to fail at it.
Right.
You need to fail fast.
Right.
Fail as fast as you can. Because,
Be the first to fail.
Damn right. Because the moment that you do, guess what? Then the 10 other people behind you that are just now deciding, all right, fuck it, I'm going to let myself fail. Well, then now you're ahead of them because you figured it out, because you failed at it. So there is no failure in that. So my gumption is certainly from my grandmother. My gumption is from all the amazing women in Dallas, Texas, who are great friends to me, who were teaching me about foods and diet as I was evolving in my process,
right?
Just inspiring my process, and a whole lot of potlucks and a whole lot of prayer. And,
Right.
my family is Choctaw, Freedmen. My father's Cherokee. My mother's family's Choctaw.
Oh wow.
And I always knew
Truly
that growing
indigenous.
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So which is what inspired Delicious Indigenous, because I always felt a pride as a black woman. I always felt proud of my indigenous heritage, not just from the motherland, as we all come from there, but from right here. So I always felt a sense of pride about this very land. And I don't know if many people who know watching, but Ahki is short for Sepsanaki, which means I joyfully follow in the footsteps of my honored ancestors. So I knew that it was purpose for me to make sure that I listened to my elders who are already laying the path and the wisdom. Young ladies, I always make sure that I'm looking at my elders and studying what they were teaching, what they were doing, and laying the path, and rooting that back to my own ancestry. And then through that, I knew I can't fail at this. I'm going to continue to inspire other people to be well, so that we can be strong.
Wow, that's a plate full indeed. I truly thank you for this opportunity. Just not only enlightening and educating me, but even everyone else that's probably going to take this and go from here.
Thank you so
if
much for
someone
having me.
wants a copy of this book or wants to hear more, your website, gochefahki.com.
GoChefAhki.com. The third edition is coming out. I am releasing my third book.
And it's like it got mad, like, it's not only is it like great information, but just like all of the recipes and directions. I can't cook at all. I have no skills whatsoever, but for someone who is looking to just be educated and hopefully you might have a significant other, if you can't cook like myself, that can help you prepare some of this stuff.
Enlist your partner.
Yeah, but it's
your
really
kids.
it's about eating electric.
Absolutely.
I would like to just end on like going back to what is electric and like an electric food, and how does that process work in you as a chef?
Gotcha. So, my niche is electric foods, and that just means that you're using foods that are natural, that are inherently natural. You're not using any genetically modified foods. You're not using any foods that have been crossbred, hybridized, spliced genetically. Natural foods that have
because
a
that
pH.
works against our body because we are electric beings.
Absolutely. Essentially, we're all electric beings. So essentially, you need foods that are electrical. And what makes a food electrical is that it has a high alkalinity. It has an alkalinity of 7.5 or higher, making it a non-acidic but an alkaline vegetable.
As well as fruits as well.
And fruits.
So, all right, so that to me, like, a lot of times is a little confusing, and even, from the water to certain, fruits and vegetables. When, I talk about eating electric, people are like, what does that mean? What do you mean we're electric?
There's fake alkalinity going on out in the streets, for sure.
And even knowing that it's about a balance, people don't understand that as well.
Absolutely. And, and I stated this about a year and a half ago in an interview, that we will start to see the term alkaline kind of drop out of the picture.
Right.
Because, there's a lot of confusion as to what role that plays in your body, because ammonia is alkaline, right? Bleach is alkaline, right? So it's like, how does that really work? And then certain things you put into your body, they become acidic or become alkaline, right? So this is also very important to understand. That process is that we're not just talking about, putting anything in your body that's alkaline. We're talking about that most of us are eating a diet that is 80 to 100% acidic.
Right.
So you're seeing this surge in people talking about alkalinity and alkaline foods, because you need to offset the imbalance that already exists in your body now. So if most of what you're eating is acidic, yes, you need to incorporate more organic, raw, vegan, alkaline foods into your body, because you're just not getting enough to be well. Similar to what we talked about with colonics, if you've driven your health to such a point that now you need to have these heavy means to resolve the problem.
Right. And it doesn't happen overnight. So, I know we talk about not living to eat, but working on eating to live. And it's always a process. I always say, try not to be judgmental and try not to let other people's judgments alter your lifestyle endeavors. So it's a growing process for me, and even someone who was diagnosed with lupus nephritis in 2012. Like I said, I've been on every type of diet there is, but I feel like I've learned quite a bit, and my eyes have been open to a lot of the BS. But also, there's a lot of practices that are truly helpful in this practice, and everything that you have in this book, it's common sense at the end of the day. It's like, put into your body what's going to help your body and get rid of the stuff that's going to hurt your body.
Simple.
And you'll feel better, and you'll heal better. If you feel better, you'll heal better, and vice versa. So I truly thank you for this time. This has been a great informative session of Cannon's class. I know we're going to break this down. There's going to be lots of comments, a lot of people, truly just saying that how helpful this was. So I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me.
No doubt. Cannon's class. We out.